One founder died and took the only password with him. Another lost $40 billion in about a week. A third turned out to be running the whole company off a spreadsheet, not a bank account. These are 12 real crypto empires that vanished almost overnight. Stay until number 1, a company once valued at $32 billion that collapsed in about 10 days. We are counting down from number 12 to number 1, from a lending platform that promised 40% monthly returns, to an exchange endorsed by celebrities that turned out to be missing $8 billion in customer funds. Every collapse on this list is real, documented in bankruptcy filings and federal court records, and most of them happened within the same 18-month stretch. Number 12, BitConnect. Launched in 2016, this platform promised investors returns of up to 40% a month by lending out their crypto through a so-called trading bot. And by January 2018, after regulators in Texas and North Carolina issued cease and desist orders, the entire platform shut down overnight, wiping out an estimated $2 billion in investor funds. At its peak, BitConnect's own token traded above $400, built almost entirely on a promotional network of promoters recruiting new investors at conferences across Asia and Eastern Europe. The platform's core volatility trading software was never independently verified, and no outside auditor was ever shown its actual trading activity. When Texas regulators issued a cease and desist order on January 3, 2018, the token price collapsed more than 90% within 24 hours. BitConnect's founder, known publicly only by an online alias, disappeared from public view entirely after the shutdown and has never been definitively identified. Thousands of retail investors, many recruited by friends and family through the platform's referral system, lost their life savings almost overnight. U.S. prosecutors later indicted the platform's top American promoter in 2021, though the platform's original global lead has never faced charges. BitConnect proved that a crypto empire can vanish as fast as a single regulatory letter. The next collapse on this list lost the equivalent of $500 million in Bitcoin, and no one has ever fully explained how. Number 11, MTGOX. By 2013, this Tokyo-based exchange was handling more than 70% of all Bitcoin trades worldwide, until February 2014, when it abruptly halted withdrawals and admitted that roughly 850,000 Bitcoins belonging to it and its customers had vanished. At the time, 850,000 Bitcoin was worth approximately $450 million, though at Bitcoin's later peak prices the same coins would have been worth tens of billions. The company's own investigation pointed to a software bug allowing withdrawal records to be duplicated, though later evidence suggested a long-running external theft dating back years. MTGOX originally launched in 2010 as a trading site for Magic, the Gathering cards, before its French founder repurposed it entirely for Bitcoin exchange. When the exchange filed for bankruptcy protection in Tokyo on February 28, 2014, roughly 24,000 creditors were left waiting for any repayment. Because Japan had no Bitcoin-specific bankruptcy law at the time, creditor repayment was delayed for over a decade, with meaningful distributions only beginning in 2024. In 2017, Greek authorities arrested a Bitcoin exchange operator later linked by prosecutors to laundering funds traced back to the MTGOX theft. MTGOX showed the world that even the largest exchange on Earth could disappear almost overnight. The next collapse on this list ended when its own founder died, taking the only password with him. Number 10, Quadriga CX. In December 2018, the founder of Canada's largest cryptocurrency exchange died unexpectedly while traveling in India, and within weeks the company revealed that roughly 190 million Canadian dollars in customer funds was locked in cold wallets that only he had ever known the password to. Court-ordered investigations later found several of the exchange's cold wallets, the ones supposedly holding customer funds, had actually been empty for months before the founder's death. The founder's death certificate was filed in India, and unusual circumstances around the case led some creditors to formally request an exhumation to confirm his identity, though authorities ultimately declined. Investigators found the founder had been operating trading accounts under fake customer identities on the platform's own exchange for years before his death. Roughly 76,000 creditors were left owed money, with the bankruptcy trustee ultimately recovering less than half of the missing funds. The founder's widow inherited his estate, including property and a plane, while creditors waited years for even partial repayment through the bankruptcy process. The Ontario Securities Commission's 2020 investigation concluded the exchange had effectively been run as a fraud by its founder alone, with no other executive aware of the missing funds. Quadriga X proved a crypto empire can die with a single person. The next collapse on this list was a modern licensed custodian that quietly ran out of money in 2023. Number 9, Prime Trust. As a Nevada-chartered trust company, this firm held custody of customer crypto and cash for dozens of exchanges and fintech apps, until regulators discovered in 2023 that it could not fulfill customer withdrawal requests because a large portion of client funds had reportedly been converted into a now worthless cryptocurrency years earlier. Nevada's Financial Institutions Division formally took control of the company in June 2023 after uncovering an estimated $85 million shortfall in customer holdings. According to court filings, the shortfall traced back to 2021, when the company reportedly lost access to certain customer crypto wallets and used other funds to keep operating. Prime Trust served as the custodial backend for numerous well-known crypto apps and platforms, meaning its failure froze funds for customers who had never directly heard of the company. Bankruptcy filings in August 2023 listed estimated liabilities between $100 million and $500 million against a smaller pool of recoverable assets. Employees learned of the shortfall shortly before the public did, with several key executives departing the company in the months leading up to the bankruptcy filing. Regulators noted the case as a warning sign for the broader custodial crypto industry, since Prime Trust had been considered one of the more established licensed players. Prime Trust showed that even a licensed custodian can quietly run dry. The next collapse on this list was a Bitcoin mining giant crushed by the same crypto winter. Number 8, Core Scientific. As one of the largest Bitcoin mining operators in North America, running vast warehouses of specialized computers across multiple states, this company filed for bankruptcy in December 2022 after the price of Bitcoin collapsed alongside rising energy costs and a bad loan tied to a different failing crypto lender. At its peak, the company operated more than 180,000 mining machines across facilities in states including Texas, Georgia, and North Dakota. A significant portion of the company's financial trouble stemmed from a lending relationship with Celsius Network, a crypto lender that itself collapsed earlier in 2022. Bitcoin mining profitability depends heavily on both coin price and electricity costs, and when both moved against the company simultaneously in mid-2022, margins evaporated within months. The company listed both assets and liabilities between $1 billion and $10 billion in its bankruptcy filing, one of the largest in the crypto mining sector's history. Thousands of mining machines were reportedly powered down or sold off during the restructuring process to conserve cash while the company negotiated with creditors. The company emerged from bankruptcy in January 2024 after restructuring its debt, converting a significant portion into equity for creditors. Core Scientific showed that even the physical infrastructure of crypto is not safe from a market crash. The next collapse on this list was a lender that promised its customers they would never need a bank again. If these collapses already sound extreme, wait. The ones ahead include a hedge fund whose founders vanished before a court could even question them. and a lending platform whose own slogan promised customers they would never need a bank again. Number 7, BlockFi. This platform let ordinary customers earn interest by depositing their crypto and grew into a multi-billion-dollar lender until its deep financial ties to the collapsing FTX exchange forced it to freeze withdrawals and file for bankruptcy within days of FTX's own implosion in November 2022. At its height in 2021, BlockFi was valued at roughly $3 billion and had raised funding from major venture capital firms betting on crypto lending's future. BlockFi had a credit line and a purchase option tied closely to FTX and its sister trading firm Alameda Research, exposing it directly when both collapsed. The company had already paid a $100 million settlement to U.S. regulators earlier in 2022 over its interest account product, only months before the FTX collapse hit. BlockFi paused withdrawals on November 10, 2022, just 2 days after FTX itself halted customer withdrawals, and filed for bankruptcy less than 2 weeks later. Customers who believed their crypto was simply earning interest similar to a savings account discovered their funds were instead loaned out and now frozen in bankruptcy proceedings. BlockFi's bankruptcy plan, approved in 2023, aimed to return a majority of assets to customers, though final recovery depended heavily on separate FTX bankruptcy proceedings. BlockFi proved that a lender's fate can be decided entirely by a partner it cannot control. The next collapse on this list was the lending arm tied to one of crypto's biggest institutional names. Number 6, Genesis Global Capital. As one of the largest institutional crypto lenders, providing the backbone for products like Gemini's Earn program, this firm halted customer withdrawals in November 2022 after its exposure to the collapsing FTX exchange, and Three Arrows Capital left a hole in its balance sheet, and it filed for bankruptcy 2 months later. Genesis reportedly had roughly $175 million in funds locked on the FTX exchange when it collapsed, compounding losses it had already taken from the earlier Three Arrows Capital default. Genesis's parent company, Digital Currency Group, reportedly issued a promissory note to cover some losses internally rather than disclosing the full shortfall to lending partners immediately. The firm's lending partnership with Gemini's Earn program left roughly 100,000 Gemini customers unable to access an estimated $900 million for months. Genesis filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection in New York in January 2023, listing liabilities in the billions of dollars. Public disputes broke out between Genesis's parent company and Gemini's founders over responsibility for repaying frozen customer funds, playing out for months in open letters. Genesis reached a settlement in 2023 to return billions in assets to creditors, with distributions continuing gradually as bankruptcy proceedings closed out claims. Genesis showed how deeply institutional lenders were tangled together behind the scenes. The next collapse on this list was a broker that made the fatal mistake of trusting a single hedge fund. Number 5, Voyager Digital. This publicly traded crypto brokerage advertised itself as a safer, regulated way to trade and earn interest on crypto, until it revealed in June 2022 that it had loaned roughly $650 million to a single hedge fund, Three Arrows Capital, which then defaulted, forcing Voyager to freeze customer withdrawals and file for bankruptcy weeks later. Voyager had marketed FDIC insurance messaging around its U.S. dollar holdings, which later drew regulatory criticism for potentially misleading customers about protection on their crypto holdings specifically. The loan to Three Arrows Capital was reportedly unsecured, meaning Voyager had little recourse once the hedge fund itself collapsed and stopped repaying. Voyager was a publicly traded company on the Toronto Stock Exchange, and its stock price fell more than 90% in the weeks surrounding the freeze. The company filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy on July 5, 2022, listing more than 100,000 creditors owed money. A planned rescue acquisition by another exchange later fell through in 2023 after regulatory pressure, forcing Voyager back into liquidation proceedings for remaining assets. Creditors ultimately recovered a majority of their crypto holdings value through a separate distribution plan finalized later in 2023. Voyager proved that one bad loan can sink an entire public company. The next collapse on this list was the hedge fund that caused Voyager's downfall in the first place. Number 4, Three Arrows Capital. Known throughout the industry simply as 3AC, this Singapore-based hedge fund managed an estimated $10 billion at its peak until aggressive leverage bets, including a massive position in the collapsing Terra Luna ecosystem, wiped out the fund within weeks and triggered defaults across nearly every major lender that had loaned him money. 3AC's founders reportedly borrowed heavily against the same collateral across multiple lenders simultaneously, a practice that became catastrophic once crypto prices fell and margin calls arrived from every direction at once. In the weeks before its collapse, 3AC reportedly missed margin calls from several major lenders, including Voyager Digital and BlockFi, without publicly disclosing its worsening position. The fund had built a large, leveraged position in Terra's Luna token specifically, a bet that turned catastrophic when that token's price collapsed by more than 99% in a single week. A British Virgin Islands court ordered 3AC into liquidation on June 27, 2022, after the fund failed to cooperate with creditors seeking repayment. Both co-founders reportedly left Singapore before the liquidation order and were later located by liquidators through public social media posts rather than direct contact. U.S. authorities later charged 3AC co-founder in 2023 with failing to cooperate with a bankruptcy investigation, and both founders face civil contempt findings from a U.S. court. Three Arrows Capital's collapse dragged down lenders across the entire industry with it. The next collapse on this list marketed itself as the platform where you would never need a bank again. The final 3 collapses on this list did not just lose money, they dragged down nearly every other company on this countdown with them, and one of them erased $40 billion in barely a week. Number 3, Celsius Network. Built around the slogan, "Unbank Yourself," this platform promised customers high-yield interest on their crypto deposits, growing to hold roughly $12 billion in assets, until it abruptly froze all withdrawals on June 12, 2022, trapping funds for over 1 million customers before filing for bankruptcy weeks later. At its peak, Celsius offered customer interest rates as high as 17% annually, a return that required increasingly risky lending and trading strategies behind the scenes to sustain. Bankruptcy court filings later revealed the company had used customer deposits to cover its own trading losses and had a significant balance sheet hole by the time withdrawals were frozen. Celsius reportedly lost substantial funds in decentralized finance exploits and risky yield strategies, including exposure to the same Terra Luna collapse that hit other lenders on this list. The company's founder, Alex Mashinsky, resigned in September 2022 and was later arrested in July 2023, facing federal fraud charges related to alleged misrepresentations to customers. Customers described losing retirement savings and emergency funds that had been frozen the moment withdrawals stopped, with many waiting more than a year for any bankruptcy distribution. In 2023, Mashinsky pleaded guilty to federal fraud and market manipulation charges, becoming one of the few crypto executives on this list to admit criminal wrongdoing directly. Celsius proved that a slogan promising freedom from banks can still trap over $1 billion in customer funds. The next collapse on this list wiped out $40 billion in barely a week. Number 2, Terra and Luna. This ecosystem was built around an algorithmic stablecoin called TerraUSD, designed to hold a steady $1 value through a mathematical relationship with its sister token, Luna, until a wave of withdrawals in May 2022 broke that mechanism entirely, erasing an estimated $40 billion in combined value in about 1 week. At its peak, Terra's stablecoin was the third largest of its kind in the world, backed by a lending platform called Anchor Protocol that offered depositors an unusually high, nearly 20% annual yield. Critics had warned for months that Anchor's high yield was unsustainable without constant new deposits, a structure some economists publicly compared to a Ponzi-style mechanism before the collapse occurred. When the stablecoin briefly lost its $1 peg on May 7th, 2022, the algorithm's design required minting enormous new supplies of the sister token Luna to try to restore balance, instead crashing its price towards zero within days. Luna's price fell from around $80 to a fraction of a cent in less than a week, effectively erasing the token's value entirely. Retail investors across South Korea, where the project's founder was based, were especially hard hit, with several public reports of investors losing entire life savings within days. South Korean prosecutors issued an arrest warrant for the project's founder, Do Kwon, in September 2022. He was arrested in Montenegro in March 2023 and later faced extradition proceedings and U.S. fraud charges. Terra and Luna proved that even a stablecoin built to never move can erase $40 billion in days. Number one on this list needed only Sam Bankman-Fried and a spreadsheet to lose customers $8 billion. Number 1, FTX. Once valued at $32 billion and endorsed by celebrities and professional athletes, this Bahamas-based exchange collapsed within about 10 days in November 2022 after reporting revealed its founder, Sam Bankman-Fried, had secretly funneled an estimated $8 billion in customer funds to his private trading firm, Alameda Research. At its peak, FTX was the third largest crypto exchange in the world by trading volume, with a headquarters in the Bahamas that included a shared luxury penthouse for its top executives. A leaked balance sheet published by a crypto news outlet in early November 2022 revealed Alameda Research held billions of dollars in FTX's own token as collateral, raising immediate solvency concerns among traders. Within 72 hours of the leak, a wave of customer withdrawal requests overwhelmed the exchange, and FTX halted withdrawals entirely on November 8, 2022, admitting it could not cover them. FTX filed for bankruptcy on November 11, 2022, alongside more than 130 affiliated companies, in one of the largest corporate collapses in U.S. history by number of entities involved. Sam Bankman-Fried was arrested in the Bahamas in December 2022, extradited to the United States, and convicted on all 7 federal fraud and conspiracy charges against him in November 2023. He was sentenced in March 2024 to 25 years in federal prison, while the bankruptcy estate later recovered enough assets to plan repaying customers a significant portion of their claims. 12 empires, 12 different ways to lose it all. But FTX proved that even the exchange celebrities trusted with their own money could be built on a spreadsheet lie the whole time. Which of these collapses shocked you the most? Subscribe to Brand Collapse. And next time we count down the retail chains that vanished from every mall in America. From a lost password to a $40 billion stablecoin collapse, these crypto empires remind us that in this industry, a fortune can disappear in a single week. Which collapse shocked you the most? Subscribe to Brand Collapse. And next time we count down the retail chains that vanished from every mall in America.